All right, this is for skills homework 2-2. So second 6 weeks, it's the second one. And all of this is just going back over our adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing decimals. So you have all 4 of those operations on here. And be sure you cannot do your work on here. There's not enough room. So make sure you do all of your work on another sheet of paper. Okay, so here are the key things to remember on each one. Okay, on the adding. So on adding decimals and subtracting, remember you line up the decimal point. So if you have 2.6 plus 0.31, okay, you don't just line up the numbers, you line up the decimal point. So that would have to be 2.6, and then here's the decimal point, and then the 3 and the 1. Okay, and then you would have to add a 0 there. So that would be 2 and 91/100ths. So on adding and subtracting decimals, line up the decimal point. Okay. Now with multiplying decimals, we don't line up the decimal point. Okay, we pretend it's not even there, and then at the end we count the numbers to the right of the decimal point. So if I had 2.64 times 0.3, I don't line up the decimal points. I just write the numbers like the decimal point isn't even there, like that. But go ahead and add it there, but you just pretend it's not there when you're lining them up. So I'm going to multiply like those decimal points aren't even there. So I'm just going to multiply 3 times all of that. Okay, now when you get finished, you have 2 numbers to the right of the decimal point here and 1 number here. So all together, that's 3 numbers to the right of the decimal point. So I need to count 1, 2, 3 numbers to the right of the decimal point. And there's where my decimal point would go. So 792 thousandths. Okay, so let's say you had just 4 times 0.21. So it doesn't matter which order you put it in. So I'm going to put the 0.21 on top and then just a 4. So that would be 4 and 8. 2 numbers here to the right of the decimal point, 0 here. So all together that's 2. So it would go right there. Okay, so with multiplying, you count the decimal places. Okay, and then with dividing. Okay, when we're dividing, if you have 2 numbers here, if you have, let's say, 2.62, and we're dividing that by 0.2, make it a really easy one. Okay, it's okay to have a decimal point on the inside, but remember we cannot have a decimal point out here. So we have to take this decimal point and move it to the end. So to move this one to the end, we moved it 1 time. So if I move this one once, I've got to move this one once too. So now I'm going to rewrite it because I moved my decimal points over. So now I have 26.2 divided by 2. So this decimal point is going to go straight up in my answer, and now I can forget about it and divide like it's not even there. So 2 goes into 2 once. Subtract, bring down your 6. 2 goes into 6 3 times. Subtract, bring down the 2. Don't bring down the decimal point. We're done with it. It's already up here in our answer, so we just leave it alone. So 13.1, or 13 1/10. Now, let's say we were dividing something like 35 divided by 6. So, and there's not a decimal point. So this goes in there 5 times. Now when you get a remainder, you add a decimal point and a 0. Now bring down your 0 because we have to leave this as 35. I can't make it 350. It still has to mean 35. So if I add a decimal point and a 0, it still means 35. So I bring that down. It'll go in there 8 times. And I can keep doing this as long as I need to. So this is actually going to end up being a repeating decimal. So the 3 is going to repeat. So 5 0.83 repeating. Okay, so that's how you're going to do every one of these. Here's your adding, subtracting. There's some that are multiplying, adding, subtracting. Here's your dividing. Oh, sorry. Okay, here's your adding, subtracting, multiplying, adding, subtracting. Here's dividing. On these, whenever you're doing this one, remember the first number is what goes on the inside. So it would be 38 divided by 8. Here's multiplying, dividing. Remember, this fraction bar means to divide. So the 16.7 would go on the inside, and the 0.5 goes on the outside. We got to move it over, so we got to move them both once. Here, remember, do parentheses first and get an answer. And then this one you're going to multiply by 10. This one you're going to divide by 100. Okay. All right. And S, let's look at that one. The paper feed on a copying machine has room for a stack of paper 4 centimeters high. If 10 sheets of paper are 0.08 centimeters thick, how many sheets will fit? And it gives you a hint. It says how thick is one sheet. So if this is for 10 sheets and we want to know how thick one sheet is, remember we're going to divide by 10. Our trick to doing that is just move the decimal point over 1. So it would be 0.008 for centimeters for one sheet of paper. That's for one. I want to know how many of these will fit in 4 centimeters. So we're going to take 4 centimeters and divide it by 0.008. So move this decimal point over 3 times. So this one, you don't see a decimal point, but it's right here. So we'd have to move it over 3 times also, which means we're going to add some zeros there. Okay, so if I move this one over 3, I move this one over 3. So now rewrite it and then divide. Okay, and let's look at the back. Malcolm spent $9.50 on pens, $24 on paper, and $11.40 on other supplies for school. He gave the clerk $60. How much change should he receive? So we're just going to add up what he spent and subtract it from $60 and see what his change is. Next one, a total of 20 mothers made cakes for a bake sale. Each mother made 3 cakes. The bake sale director found 40% of the cakes were chocolate. How many cakes were not chocolate? So we need to know how many total cakes there were. Okay, so you got to find the total number of cakes there were. And then you want 40% are chocolate. This says how many are not chocolate. So you can either find 40% and then subtract from the total, or if 40% are chocolate, then think about what percent are not chocolate and find that. And remember, when we're finding a percent of something, we're going to change the percent to a decimal and then multiply. But don't multiply this percent times 20. You got to find the total number of cakes. And then, like I said, it says how many are not chocolate. We don't want to find how many are chocolate. All right, next one. Jill works on the weekends. Last Saturday she worked 5 7/75 hours, and on Sunday she worked 6 7/75 hours. She earned $7.50 per hour. How much did she earn last week? So we need to find the total number of hours she worked on Saturday and Sunday together, and then multiply it by $7.50 an hour. Okay, next one. Casey had 48 tickets for games at the school carnival. She used a third of her tickets to play spin the wheel game. She used half of the remaining tickets to play a balloon game where she won 8 more tickets. How many tickets did she have after playing these 2 games? Okay, so she started with 48 and she used a third of them. So we want to know what a third of that is. So you're going to split this into 3 groups, and that's how many she used to play spin the wheel. Then, so subtract those tickets because she used them, so they're gone. So then she used half of the remaining to play the balloon game. So whatever's remaining, we want half of that. So find what half of that is and subtract it. And then she won 8 tickets. So we're going to add those 8 tickets to it because she won those. Okay, and the last one. Ryan and his mother are making new curtains for his room. They need 5 3/4 yards of material for each of the 2 smaller windows and 7 1/2 yards for each of the 2 larger windows. How much material do they need for the 4 windows? So this one needs 5 3/4. Got 2 small ones. They both need 5 3/4. And then you have 2 large ones that each need 7 1/2. So we're just going to add all that together. Okay, your answers are in fractions, so I personally would not change those to decimals, okay, because you want your answers to be in fractions. So you already have common denominators here, and then here, okay, you can either find and add them all together at once by finding a common denominator, or add these 2 together and add these 2 together and then add. Okay, however you want to do it. But we need to just combine it all together. All right, good luck.